follow that. So, our center, this center, the center that you're all a part of, really is making a big difference in the world. It is not commonly accepted, this idea of I am God, even though Rumi, thousands of years ago, said it. You are not just a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. And, you know, when Craig brought me that song, I just want to be really honest. Craig Lincoln is, besides the fact that he's a medalist diver in the Olympics, which is enough of an accomplishment for someone to have in their life. Frankly, to me, this song just is right up there with that for you. So. But the other thing he is brilliantly is a thorn in my side. But it's a thorn that I lovingly put there on purpose when he asked about stepping into our 300 class. Because you see, Craig Lincoln does not agree with a lot of things, and he still steps in to see if he can make sense out of it. He may not be in alignment with I am God even, but he's willing to step in there and see, what are y'all talking about, right? And so if you can only imagine that, now add Eric Bork to that list, and then Sean Scanlon, then add Liza Marquez, and it's quite an interesting class. But what I love about it so much is that it keeps the conversation at such a high level of percolation. I never take for granted that I know the answer, because the questions that are coming at a fast and furious pace keep me asking the questions over again to myself. Now, the interesting thing about the I am God thing is that I am 100% in that story. I am 100% in that truth. I get it. I get it at such a deep primal level. You're not going to argue me off of that. I understand this. And here's the interesting thing. So did Ernest Holmes. And if I told you how many times a well-intentioned practitioner or minister of religious science has tried to argue me off this point by quoting Ernest Holmes in 1927, who said, "You are God, but you are not all of God." He said that in 1927. In 1961, he said, "After much consideration, I come to realize all that God is all that I am. There is only one of us." So between 1927 and 1961, he came to I am God, and he understood it. So for me, it's our responsibility to create a type of understanding of this and a type of curriculum that allows students like Craig, like Liza, like anybody to step in, question themselves, and come out the other end with a higher understanding of the truth. And that's what you're all doing here, because you all chose to be a part of this philosophy, this teaching, a teaching that is not, let's see, you go into Costco and you're shopping for a religion. Oh, look, this one has that really great guy in the sky. Apparently you can ask him for things and he gives it to you. All you have to do is follow the rules. Oh, I like that. $62.95, that's pretty good. Oh, look, this religious science. You're in charge, you're responsible for everything you've ever created. Ugh. It's done unto you as you believe, so get your beliefs in order. Oh, forget it. It's much easier to ask for this. That's how the world does it. So there's a reason why the New Thought religions are having a little bit of a trouble getting some real, firm grip out here in the world. It's because we are taking responsibility for creating a world that works for us by using the very thing that we are, and that is God. So you're on the forefront, folks. We are in the throes of creating a new paradigm shift. And songs like this set it up for us. So, the title of my talk today is change is good? It has a question mark at the end of it. But it didn't have a question mark at the end of it when I first came up with doing a talk called Change is Good. I was just going to give you a talk on change is good. And then I was working in the office, I think it was Thursday, and I hadn't eaten for like 5 hours. And my assistant, Brent, he is so great. He will come in literally and go, "When's the last time you ate?" And I said, "Oh, a couple hours ago." He was like, it was like 11 o'clock and it's now 4 o'clock. Get out. Go eat. So I went to the Six, my favorite restaurant right now, to eat. So when I got there, it was really crowded, so I had to sit at the counter. So I'm sitting at the counter, and there's like a little deuce behind me, and I hear out of this woman's mouth behind me, "Change is good?" And I was like, oh my God, that's my talk. And then he starts to explain to her why change is good. And she goes through the whole litany of everything I hear from students from the dawn of time. Hitler. She went through every possible reason why. And that's good. And the poor guy's trying to explain it to her. And he's like, it was like a Democrat and a Republican went to lunch. That's what it felt like, because it ended up on Trump. But I'm not going there. So they're having this argument, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, just here's I know the answer. I know the answer to this. Just say this. Just say this." I'm trying to transport the answer to him. I got it. I got that. And he didn't do it. So then I went right back, and I did finally send Barbara the title of the talk, and I wrote "Change is Good" with the question mark. Because it's really important for us to understand change. If we are going to change it up this month and come from passion, then we have to understand what change is in English. So, I'm going to start with a quote by Ernest Holmes, and it's this: "Creation is eternally going on. Change is always taking place within that which is changeless." Now, a sentence like that is almost like you're not a drop in the ocean, you're the entire ocean in a drop. What? And you're like, how can I be the whole ocean? I mean, trying to wrap your mind around you being the entire ocean in a drop is like trying to wrap your mind around the fact that change is always going on from within the changeless. But I'm going to explain it to you, because it is so important for you to understand what we're talking about. Because what we're really talking about is what God is. Now, I was at a dinner party last night that I'm going to talk about a little later, and it came up at the table. All of a sudden, when you mention God, how many of you have ever had God come up in a conversation with like 5 or 6 people at a table? It's fascinating. God is, to think that God is the unifier of things, no, it's the exact opposite. Use the word God, and everybody at the table has an opinion and a judgment and a feeling of what it is. And everyone takes it. It's very proprietary. No, this is what God is. That's what's going on in the world. This group of people thinks this is what God is. This group of people thinks this is what God is. And I will fight you to the death for it. And I will abolish your nation. And that's the way it works, right? And yet, they're really talking about the same thing. We're all talking about the exact same thing. So what is the changeless? Well, what you are, what I am. When we're talking about God, the reason why Ernest Holmes used the thing itself, we are talking about this energetic substance, this life force that is inherent in all things. It is the particles that come together, but it's what's behind the particles that moves them and allows them to percolate and grow and expand. That's what you are. That's what God is. And it is in everything possible, everything under the sun, including the sun, and everything else. It's hard to even explain it because it is so expansive in nature. But that's what God is. That's what you are. Now, here's the thing about that. It is changeless. You cannot take away from what God is. What does that mean then? You can't take away from what you are. God is changeless. You cannot suddenly make God less than what God is. And guess what? You can never make yourself less than what you are. Not in truth, not in reality. Now, in the world of form, in the experiential world, how many of you have ever made your life a little less than you would like it to be? And guess what? I love that Anthony's behind the camera. Yes, but why? Because in this changeless thing called God, you are the driver of your picture. You are the one that gets to decide what it's going to look like. And you can change it up. You can change it down. You can change it into anything you want to. But it doesn't change what God is. It doesn't change what you are. And this is the best message we could ever get. Because what it means is that any moment when I have used that incredible energy to create something that I maybe don't want to live, I can just stop. This is why practitioners, we know exactly what to do. You stop, you pray. You stop, you drop, you pray. You know the truth. We don't drop to our knees anymore. We've moved beyond that. Plus, my knees are a little, they can't do that. So you stop, and you know the truth. That's all. When we say I know the truth, it's because in a changeless world of creativity, I know the truth that whatever's going on, I can change it if I need to. I don't like this, I'm changing it. I don't like this, I'm going to be equal to this instead. That's what you have bought into. That is what you've decided to know about your mind. And that's the only place it works, right here. That's it. Everything you ever want to create is right where you are. So, creation is eternally going on, sure, because the changeless is always evolving. And here's the thing. You are changing, so why not be part of the process? Life is changing, life is growing, life is expanding. Have you ever found yourself trying not to change? How many non-changers are there? Have you ever found yourself just saying, I really like this. I'm going to just hold on to this. Let's keep this the way it is. I don't want it to change. The whole time, the universe is just pushing through you saying, I know that feels good, but try this on. You ever feel yourself ever just trying to hold back? And the train keeps going. I thought this morning about this idea that the train's moving on. The train that God is chugging along. And we often jump off and go, I just can't. I'm not ready. Not ready. Too much trouble. And the train's going. But eventually we get back on. Then we got to run all the way back to where we started just to get in line with that evolution, that emergent evolution that is consistently expanding us. That is what's going on right now for each and every one of us, if we would allow it. So, this month is all about passion. And so last night, I went to dinner. Now, I did ask if I could mention who I went to dinner with, and they were very, very happy to tell. I'm not happy, but they agreed to let me talk about it. Because at one point I said, I'm going to have to talk about this tomorrow. And Sarah was like, whatever. So how many of you know who Sarah Paulson is? Okay, so Sarah Paulson this year she now goes down in history as having won the most awards. She's won every single award there is to win for an actress to win starring in a TV movie. Every award. She's won every one of them. And she now has that place in history. She's also been nominated for an Emmy for Best Actress in a TV series 9 years in a row. Never missing a year. So that's who I got to have dinner with last night. And her girlfriend, soulmate, girlfriend's fine, Holland Taylor. You all know who Holland Taylor is, yes? Mother on 3.5 Men. So it was that. But it was also Sarah's, huh? Oh, 2.5 Men. They didn't have the budget for the third guy. So I think I say 3.5 Men because of Ashton Kutcher stepping in and whatever. So also with Sarah was her sister, who is a very big casting director, a head of casting at Paramount somewhere, some big studio. But the reason I bring this up, other than to tell you how much fun I had last night, and also the gentleman who designs all of the Oscars, the Oscar ceremonies. Who else was at that table? Oh, and then her husband, right? It was an amazing, Keith, an amazing dinner. And it's funny, at one point Kevin said, I know you have a lot of work to do tonight, so if you don't want to come to dinner, I was like, what, are you crazy? Of course I'm coming to dinner. So the reason I bring this up is this. At one point, now nobody really at the table knew I was a minister, and it was a very high-powered entertainment group, very successful, really successful people working at very high levels of success. And so at one point, we were talking about, I brought up God. And now here's the funny thing, I just realized, I think it's time to stop saying, oh my God, and saying, oh my me. Oh my me. Which is O-M-M, which is I just thought that up, just so you know. So anyway, I bring up this word God, and it's fascinating to watch the table try to discuss what God means. And it was, I'm sorry, tell me his name. David Wolfson. So David's like, all right, I'm just going to have to just keep jabbing at this. So what is God? I mean, what is God? I mean, we bring up this word, and he was like, it just pisses me off. People bring up God all the time, like it really exists. What is God? And he was being so respectful, and he was trying to sign in on Facebook, and I can't even get you on Facebook. I said, I've exceeded my number of people I'm allowed to have. I now have to become a public figure. It was just so funny. He was like, oh yeah, because you talk about God. Everybody wants to talk about God. So we're having this discussion, and Sarah starts talking about what she thinks of God, but then her sister said something that I found was so fascinating. She said, here's the thing. I'm really excited that when I'm done in this industry, and when I'm done with this industry, I really want to do what you're doing. I want to move into spirituality, be a motivational speaker. I really want to step into that kind of life. And it kind of brought a quiet haze over the room as everybody was just like, and Sarah, I heard her tone go, Sarah was like, what? But Holland Taylor, who, by the way, will be speaking in May one evening, yeah, she has her master's degree in spiritual psychology. Yeah, and she said to me last night, I said, well, when can you speak? She says, I can speak in May. I said, okay, I just have to tell you what the topic is. She goes, I don't need a topic. Now I'm afraid, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I said, you only have 20 minutes. This is not a 2-hour Broadway show. She said, well, I'll say what needs to be said. So bring a sleeping bag. So we're talking about God. And it was fascinating sitting there. I had to take a deep breath because I didn't want to misrepresent God. I know what I believe, and now I'm challenged to actually explain it, not to my students who are willing to listen to me and paying to hear me say what I have to say. But this is somebody who has his own opinion about God, and she has her opinion about God. And Holland just sits there smiling through the whole thing. And so I literally start talking, but I'm hearing myself talking as I'm talking, and I'm literally saying, is that right? Is that right? Is that right? To myself inside. It was really fascinating for me to be in that position, and I thought, this is what I want to dedicate my entire life to. I want to find a way to have this conversation with millions of people all over the world who can have their own opinions of what God is, but to make sure that this representation of God is also being represented so that we can move the needle just a little bit more towards the I am God understanding. And it really did work out great. And I loved what David had to say about God, because his big problem, his big issue was, I don't believe in that God outside that's like pontificating. I just don't believe in that God. And I was like, neither do I. And then he said, then why use the word? Now I didn't know what to say. You're right, why use the word? I said, well, in our religion, we don't use the word often. We use love, we use life force, we use energy. I said, but at the end of the day, it's just so simple to just say God. And by the way, for me, God means greatness on demand. And I love it. He looked at me and he went, well, that's clever. I said, that's all for me, greatness on demand. It's within every single one of us. So I don't know about you, how many conversations you're having with your friends, or when these conversations come up, you are willing to take the step and actually say what you believe. But I really do believe if we are going to change it up and we're going to live with passion, we have got to come out of the closet with this understanding of what God is, and not just be willing to be quiet when it comes up because maybe we have an opinion that might be a little controversial. Have the controversy. Be willing to talk about it from your perspective. Now, that doesn't mean argue them to the ground and pummel them to death and say, God is you! God damn! No. We have to do it in a peaceful, loving manner because in the end, we all agree. And no matter what religion you're speaking to, there will be something in their writings, something in their Bible, in their Bhagavad Gita, it's right there. That God is all there is. The jump from God is all there is to I am God is not that big a jump. It's just that something happened along the way from God is all there is to I am God. And it's this. Somewhere along the line, we were taught to believe that we were less than. We were taught to believe that, yes, God is all there is, but you're kind of the lowest level of God, and you really have to work your way back up. Well, I don't know about you. I am tired of working my way back up to God. I'm happy to just say, done. I am God. Because here's the thing, you can live God at any level you want. So now let's talk about passion very quickly. Nelson Mandela said this, there is no passion to be found playing small. So I have a question for you. How many of you don't have to raise your hand, I know who you are. How many of you are playing small? Preciosa, I said you didn't have to raise your hand. So here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. You're all playing small. Every single one of you. No matter how big you think you're playing small. And you're playing small until you remember who you are. And buy it 100%. And once you do, you're going to see how small you've been playing it. I'm playing small. And I am really starting to understand that. It doesn't matter how high your ceiling is, it's a ceiling. It doesn't matter how wide your walls are, or your barriers are, or your boundaries are. They're boundaries, they're walls, they're blocking you in. It doesn't matter how big you make your life. It's small until you remember who you are, until you get it so profoundly, everything changes. Tony Robbins said this. He said, live with passion. Y'all know that quote? Live with passion. But I say, you know what? That's not it. It's not live with passion. It's live as passion. It's not living with it. That's dualistic. I don't live with passion. I don't find something to make me passionate. I am passion. I bring passion to everything. That's what our job is. That's what our job is this month. I live from passion, as passion. I am the passion. I am God, I am passion. I am God, I am everything. So, last night we get home from this party, and our house is torn down. We now live in a third of our house. The other 2/3 are down. It's gone. Ceilings, everything's to the studs. And so, for me, to live this way, I have got to be in control of every single thing in this 1/3 of the house. It has to be neat, clean. The dogs have to understand who they are. Everything. And they do really well when it's just me around the house. I think they look at me and go, we get it. I know we're going to be adopted out if we don't do exactly what you said. So they've learned. So we leave the house last night, and it was, poor Kevin. Kevin too. So we leave the house, as if. We leave the house, and it's like, it's immaculate. I have kept this house so clean all week. I am the Swiffer king. It's just so clean. Everything's put away. All the dishes are put away. Because when you have no room and you have so much stuff, everything has to be put away, right? You can't leave anything out. You leave one thing out, it's a mess. So I'm suddenly turning into my mother, I just realized. So it was really great. We leave. We come back like 4 hours later. Oh, my God. You would have thought 60 people had dinner in our kitchen. Dishes everywhere. The sink. And Nora's asleep. Is she here? She's not going to hear this, right? She'll hear it. She'll watch it online and go, I cannot believe you. But she'll learn. Don't do it again. So the kitchen is a disaster. So I go into her bedroom and I'm like, Nora, did anyone think maybe to clean up after you made dinner? She goes, well, Will already left. I said, that wasn't the question. I said, well, he should have cleaned. I said, who cooked? She said, he did. I said, then you clean. That's the deal. Whoever cooks, the other person cleans. How many of you do that? That's the way it works. So Nora, she said, and I love how she does this. She looks at me, she goes, do you want me to get out of bed and clean the kitchen? And then the father thing comes in, and you're like, no, of course not. You stay in bed, but something else then clicked in, because I remembered what the kitchen looked like. And I said, you know what, Nora? And then she said, you know what, Dad? It's Passion Month. You should just go into that kitchen with your passion. Be careful what you're speaking. because she put it right back at me. And I was like, okay. And then I went, no, you know what? Here's my passion. I have passion about my face. I want to do my ablutions. So you are going in the kitchen, clean the kitchen. I will do my ablutions. When I'm done, we'll both be happy. And then she was great. She was very sweet. She goes, all right, I'll do it. I'll clean the kitchen. So she went into the kitchen. I did my ablutions. For those of you who doesn't know what that means, it means I made myself beautiful. And then she gave me a kiss goodnight. She went to bed. I walked into the kitchen and then cleaned the kitchen so that it looked up to my par. Why am I telling you this story? Passion, yes. I'm telling you this story because we think there are things that we can't be passionate about. And I'm sure there are things in your life that you think you can't be passionate about, like doing the dishes or whatever it is. Whatever you think you can't be passionate about, you're wrong. You are the passion. You bring the passion to whatever you bring it to. It's nothing more, as Raymond Charles Barker says, than a decision to be the passion in your life. It can be anything. You can reignite passion in anything the minute you remember who you are. So Zig Ziglar said this: when you catch a glimpse of your potential, that's when passion is born. When you catch a glimpse of your potential, that's when passion is born. So, my last question to you this evening. How many of you are living up to your potential? Now, here's the thing about that. This is not a time for you to judge yourself or get down on yourself, because I'm going to tell you the answer to that question. And while you probably think I'm going to say, none of you are living up to your potential, I'm not. I'm actually going to say every single one of you is living up to your potential right now. You are. Because wherever you are, you have arrived there. And you have lived up to whatever potential that is. Your job now is to start raising the roof to your potential. Start understanding what your potential is. Start understanding that if you're here, there's a potential that doesn't even have a ceiling. So yes, we've all lived up to our potential thus far, but I have a much bigger potential than this, because potentiality is the truth of your being. So when it comes to passion, it really is up to you and it really is up to me to find out who I am so clearly, to stand in this I am God so fully that my potential starts to live me. And suddenly, it's no longer okay, as he says there, to play small. It's no longer okay to accept this or accept that. It's no longer okay to be doing deals with the universe. Well, maybe this, well, maybe that. It is time for us to stop playing let's make a deal with our life and start getting so clear on who we are that life lives us, passion lives us, so that we approach everything from there. Like Craig's song says, if I am not a drop in the ocean, I must be a drop in a raging mountain stream. Well, this is a lyricist that picked these words for a reason. A raging mountain stream. And I get it, that our lives sometimes feel like that mountain stream is throwing us against rocks and is just giving us such a tough ride downstream. And sometimes we're like salmon trying to go upstream against the tide. I get that. But that's what life is. And we can bring passion even to the challenges. I am not a drop in the ocean. I must be a drop in the prairie rain. Have you ever been in a prairie? Have you ever been in the desert when it rains? When it rains in the desert, you feel that hot water coming down, and you watch the earth almost lift itself up to meet it. And when that happens, and we have been there many times, when that rain comes down and the earth comes up and you're standing between it, oh my God, you ever want to feel, oh my knee, you ever want to feel oneness? Stand in the desert when a rainstorm comes out of nowhere. He writes these lyrics and I hear them and I'm like, oh, I've been there. I feel it. That's the oneness. Or the one that really slays me. If I'm not a drop in the ocean, I must be a teardrop in your eye. But then he says, there must be a teardrop in your eye, and I already have them. They're the tears. They're my tears, but they're your tears, because there's only one tear. But who's crying? What's crying? What's that thing, that energy, that life force that's bringing all of this into play? That's what I am. Oh my, to be that level of energy, to be coming from that highest consciousness of creativity, to know that there are no limitations and that I can live life through to 130 if I want to, at the most vibrant energy like Reverend Nancy I have, and just be and do and not be limited by anyone's ideas of myself, not be limited by anyone's idea of what life is supposed to be. We shouldn't know what life is supposed to be. We should just let life suppose itself through us and let all that passion take us to wherever we want to be taken. So that's what we get to do this month. That's who we get to be. You, me. We get to stand right where we are, no matter what's going on, standing in the truth of who and what we are. Be willing to live ourselves out loud, on purpose, and just say, I am not a drop in the ocean. I am the entire ocean in a drop, and I am ready to just explode all over this universe with everything I have to offer. That's who we are. Namaste.